Another exciting episode of the Warriors of Wellbeing. And today we are thrilled to have Helen Levine on the show. Helen, through her writing and coaching program, has empowered individuals to break free from limiting patterns and tap into their limitless potential. She is a master of manifestation who leads by example, having overcome her own struggles with burnout, scarcity, and toxic relationships. Helen is perfect as a guest on the show because we're all about sharing people's striving to become better and to heal. And so please help me welcome everyone, Helen Levine.
Hi, thank you for that beautiful introduction, Mike.
You're more than welcome, Helen. So as I mentioned in our pre-interview here, people love to hear individual stories. So what is Helen's story?
Oh boy, does Helen have lots of stories of what people like to say from trauma to triumph, I suppose. And I guess it all started, for those that don't know who I am or much about me, is I came to United States as an immigrant, didn't even speak a word of English, and I had a lot of health issues, which I realized later, decades later, when I started to go through my own healing journey and learning and evolving, that it was because of my emotional wounds and a lot of the things that I have endured earlier in life that physical manifestation of my health was showing up in that way. So it was from chronic anxiety and panic attacks to literally chronic health issues that doctors were saying are chronic, permanent, and will never go away, you know, and all that kind of stuff that so many people hear. And from feeling never heard or understood by the medical community and really gaslighted in my youth because, oh, it's all in your head. And they just made me feel like I'm a lunatic, you know, who is just healthy and the symptoms are made up. And it was only years after that I really started to connect the dots and healing myself through all the different means and tools and techniques and knowledge that I was acquiring at healers and all of this, you know, holistic modalities and practitioners, that suddenly everything began to make sense. And I've really recognized that it is so many people also that experience this kind of a journey of pain, of trauma, of wounds, and then the physical symptoms of unwellness and disease, you know, which is really dis-ease, that led me on this whole path to also not only continue to, you know, grow and heal and evolve, but also to help others accomplish a better way of living, realizing that we're all capable, that it is within ourselves, and that we are our own powerful gurus, and that health and wealth and prosperity and abundance is available and is our divine right for all of us.
That's true. That's so true. And just listening to you there, you mentioned the alternative and holistic modalities. Did it, did you get to a point in your life where you go, okay, I've tried everything. I'm going to try something different.
Oh boy, did I. Yeah, many times. But, you know, especially when I was younger and so used to feeling not just helpless in the way that people might think, but helpless in a way that we are taught to give our power to some authority, like, oh, well, doctor says that means, right? So I consistently heard that that's it is what it is type of thing. And it was realizing later that it wasn't what it was. It's something that I was able to shift, to heal, to resolve in different ways that are not necessarily taught in a mainstream, or at least that are not accepted in a mainstream. So, yeah, definitely.
That's interesting. And I was supporting a friend of mine that I met on Facebook who been going through challenges with chronic pain and she says the biggest I asked her, I said, what's your biggest challenge or struggle? She said, for people in my family or in close acquaintances to understand that I'm dealing with this because they've never experienced it, so they don't understand it.
Yeah. And it's hard for people to empathize with something that they really don't get. I even remember, like in my 20s, through even through my early 30s, the state of chronic anxiety and explaining to someone what an anxiety or a panic attack feels like if they never experienced it is something that you just cannot comprehend. And I think that's why a lot of mental health professionals, they're taught by the book, but unless they've walked the walk, unless they've felt somebody's pain, unless they've endured something like that themselves, there is no book that can possibly make you relate on the same level unless you experienced it. Unfortunately, that's just the way that I see it.
Yeah, it's the old adage, you have to walk in their shoes.
And obviously, everyone's experience is always going to be different regardless, but still, it's that you just cannot comprehend somebody's, especially mental, emotional anguish and pain. Physical, I guess it's easier for people to relate to, but mental and emotional, if someone has never experienced it, they cannot fully understand or relate.
That's true. That's true. And do you encounter people in your daily life or in your professional career who are dealing with things that you may have dealt with, or you see people dealing with as far as pain and issues like that, and they go, well, I'll trust my doctor, he knows best.
Of course, all the time. And I believe it's one of the ways that I call we've been hacked. And again, it goes back to trusting somebody else over your own feelings, over your own intuition, over your own even symptoms, and listening to some form of authority that's supposed to know better than you. And for me, that's what kind of prompted this whole path, is realizing that they didn't have all the answers just because they learned what they learned, and they have their best at heart a lot of times. So it's not somebody's fault that they're not necessarily understanding you or your symptoms, like, the doctors. It's just that they were taught what they were taught, and they operate out of that level of consciousness. But we have to take our own responsibility for our health and well-being. At the end of the day, you cannot give that responsibility off to somebody else and then just blame them, if something did not go the way that you wanted to.
That's great advice. That's great advice. One of our guests, oh, I don't know, 6 months ago, made a comment, and I think that ended up being the title of the episode. You must be the captain of your own treatment team.
I agree with that. It's funny that you said that. Years ago, I remember I came to this functional medicine doctor. And at that point, I already studied under renowned naturopath and homeopathy and Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and all the energy medicine. And I remember I came to this doctor and I needed just some like physical tests, blood work and all these kind of things. And normally by then, if I would just show up at a regular doctor's office and request some tests, they would look at me like I have three heads. So this guy was, yeah, sort of more open-minded. Functional medicine is a little bit different. It's considered alternative by some. So I said to him, I feel like I am on the ship missing a captain. I just need somebody to kind of direct which way the physical kind of testing would go. And he actually loved it. He was so on board. He's like, just tell me, he was very respectful. He's like, I respect all your knowledge and all that. So he really was kind of like, he became the captain of that ship. So it was a beautiful synergistic, I guess, relationship.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's wonderful that he let his ego and potential arrogance down so that he could get to your true needs.
Yeah, and there are some great doctors out there who really are willing and open to, like you said, not operate out of the ego, which unfortunately many operate out of, but to be humble and open and understand that the patient certainly might have some valid reasons and feelings and all that. So if you can find a doctor where you're in a partnership for your health, where they have your best in mind, then that could be extremely helpful for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm intrigued. I haven't read it yet, but I've ordered it. The book, Unhack Yourself. So give us a little background and history of how that became a
Oh,
reality.
well, that book has been here for anyone who wanted to see it. It's been written partially, I say by me and partially through me over a decade. And initially, it kind of started out as a series of thoughts and what I call downloads that I was going, hey, Siri. And I would just use Siri. Oh, my Siri just turned on and started to respond on my phone. To type up notes that throughout the day, and sometimes in the middle of the night, you know, certain things would just come through for me to share, to write down for whatever reason. I had no idea that it was going to become a book at that point. Never thought of myself as an author or even a potential author. And besides, like, English wasn't even my first language, so all of it was so far from the realm of, you know, any kind of remote possibility. But nonetheless, the calling was there to keep writing, so I was. And then eventually, in 2023, I had this very strong sense that it was kind of like ready to be compiled into a book. I mean, by then it was already a journey of a number of years of different messaging coming through from the universe, I guess, for me, like, I need to write the book. I need to write a book. I was being nudged. And so I finally started to really work on that, and I got an amazing team to support me through the process, and it became the book that still had no name. So at that point, for over 6 months, I was like sitting with it and meditating on it and pondering and asking my higher self and universe to just give me a name. And I kid you not, one night I literally woke up months ago, last year, and I started to write something down. And when I woke up in the morning, I remembered that something came through. I was like, what did I write down? And it happens to me. That's how I get a lot of my downloads. And I read UnHack Yourself. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, that's it. I got the name download that I needed. And funny enough, this is Frankie, by the way, because he's always on my lap whenever I do any calls or client sessions. He's always there. Um, when I saw the UnHack Yourself, I called my editor and I was like, oh my God, scratch the first paragraph of the book and scratch this, this, and this. And I suddenly was able to connect certain chapters that I did not, for the longest time, love the way that they were sort of connecting. It all just made perfect sense. I realized that we have all been hacked individually and collectively through all the programs, through all the societal norms and conditioning and expectations of us from our families, from our lineages. And to add on top of that, our emotional wounds, our mental barriers and limiting beliefs that we build on and acquire through life, all this great stuff has literally hacked who we are and how we operate through life. And everything that I have taught for years to my clients, which stemmed from how I have transformed my entire life, was on hacking ourselves through all the different ways and the method that I teach in the book and that I've taught throughout my initially one-on-one and then my programs. It was always to rewrite our programming, to undo what we are not, in order to truly just reconnect to who we are and who we've always been underneath all of it. So it's all about unbecoming and undoing of all the false beliefs and programs so that who we truly are just to shine through. And that's an incredible experience.
It's very apparent. Your enthusiasm and your passion for that project comes through. And I hope we can do this video as I explained to you, we're trying to do, but it will come through even in the audio version. But just to I wouldn't say tease our audience, our listeners a little bit, but maybe one thing that you have found helpful for yourself that probably is in the book that's helped you reprogram Helen. Maybe one tip that you can offer our listeners.
One tip. Ooh, that's a tough question. Well, I think one of the first aha moments for me years ago, and it was through reading certain books like Louise Hay or Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra's books, and all those amazing teachers and guides. I remember having the awareness that, or actually also Byron Katie left a big mark for me years ago. I don't know if you've read her stuff, but beautiful. I remember realizing that I really was believing a lot of my own false thoughts. And then the deeper realization came that they're not even my own, that I believed somebody else's beliefs and thoughts that were projected onto me since I was a child or in my youth. And so when I began to really question all of that and rewriting my own story, that is something that I find is one of the most powerful ways somebody can start to reclaim their own power and really getting reacquainted with their own innate authentic truth. Because we have been all so disconnected from our truly authentic selves that, you know, people go through life struggling and suffering, and relationships struggle, and they can't find their soulmate, they can't find their dream job or career path, they're not happy with their work, with their life, with all of it, right? And the reason is because they're disconnected from who they are underneath all of that. So when you start to reconnect to your authentic self, then that path really becomes illuminated very organically, because you start to operate on a different energy. And that's another thing that for anybody, you know, would be the advice is to start to remember and connect, even if you're not very spiritual, to the fact that you are more than just the physical body. You are an energetic being, and as such, you have the power and ability to transform your energy, to elevate yourself out of whatever state that you're not happy in and into the state and the version of you that can manifest and create your dream life. And it is possible. And I'm a firsthand witness. Again, I was a poor immigrant, very sickly, unwell, unhappy, depressed, anxious, and miserable. And into, you know, helping God knows how many people, countless people, transform their lives in physical health, in emotional well-being, and in their wealth and their capacity and relationships and love, because it's all deeply interconnected. So I don't know if that was the one advice, but it's kind of all encompassing.
No, the listeners got their money's worth. Let's just put it, they got their money's worth. But it reminded me of two things as you were describing what you've been through and how the things you've done, obviously a lot of introspection, a lot of work on yourself, is a book that I read that had a profound impact on me by Alan Peasy, called, the title of it, Questions Are the Answer.
I haven't read that one, but it sounds brilliant.
Questions are the answer. And it's really good about asking the questions. Why do I do this? Why do I do that? You know, and it goes even deeper than that. But then it also reminded me of the quote by Mark Twain, the famous quote that he's known for. There are two important dates in everyone's life: the day that you were born, and then the next day is when you figure out why.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And,
So true.
the cool thing about it is just like being the captain of your physical well-being treatment team, you are the captain of your mental well-being and your consciousness and your soul. You're the captain
For
of it
sure.
as well.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. So how has the book been received thus far, Helen?
You know, it's been an incredible thing to experience and witness. I get messages weekly. It only launched for Mother's Day, for International Women's Day in March, so very recent. And I've been, first of all, I've been seeing some, I guess, reviews on Amazon, which is incredible. And also people are just DMing me or sharing in different communities where I speak, that it's so uplifting, and the people's aha moments. I had one actually coach reach out, and she messaged me that her husband watched her highlighting throughout the book, and she's like, you got to read this book. There's so many aha moments. And I found it so humbling that she's an incredible coach. I've seen her work. I'm familiar with her work. And I was just really honored to get that kind of a feedback. And he said to her, you actually know this woman? And she's like, yes, I've spoken to her. So it was incredible for me. And really the mission for me for this book is to help elevate the consciousness and the energy. I've infused, Mike, believe it or not, the book itself with so much positive energy, because it was my intention for every reader that gets their hands or eyes on it, their ears on it, whatever way it is, that to receive whatever it is that they are meant to receive through the book in that moment. And as you probably know, every book you can read many times and you will always find something different in it for yourself. And it's because it all depends on where we are at that moment in our consciousness, in our own state, mindset, and emotional state. And so we're only able to receive from that level of where we're at. But every time we read something that helps us to elevate or to connect something within ourselves, it brings us to that next level. And so it's definitely something that is my wish and my intention through that book, is to reach millions of lives and to help people to really connect to themselves, to their inner truth, and to heal and evolve into their best version so they can manifest their best life.
Right, right. That is so true. And I'm sure you've heard the name Bob Proctor.
Of course.
Yeah. He has been his the rumor is that he read the book Think and Grow Rich several thousand times
Oh, wow.
over his lifetime. And I'm rereading one of his books for the 10th time currently. And I was rereading one of the concepts he was speaking about. And I'm going, aha, oh my gosh, I get it. I get it. And now that's the 10th time I've been through this book. And I'm getting one simple concept that's profound, finally.
Yeah. I've had so many of those moments rereading certain books or reading certain books years ago. I remember having those aha moments going, oh my God, so that's what that book 25 books ago meant. And it only, connected in my brain later, because again, the capacity to receive that level of information just simply wasn't there yet. And that's totally okay. That's why it makes sense for us to continue growing and evolving. And, funny enough, when I had to reread my own manuscript multiple times, I said to my husband, you're not going to believe it. I was mind blown by my own writing at some point. I was like, did I really write that? And it's probably because it was channeled and I didn't really fully write it. Got to give credit where it's due. But some of it is just incredible because we can read the same thing, but we will receive it very differently.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, how did your husband, when he read the book, what was his reaction?
It's funny. He's not a very spiritual person. He's definitely someone that is more grounded and earthly, which is a great balancing act for us. And he said to me, "Hun, it's actually so much better than I expected." And I said, "So what did you get out of it?" And he goes, "While I'm not really your target audience," he's like, it's so positive and uplifting. He goes, "The only thing is, it sounds like I still have to do the work." And I said to him, "Well, duh, of course you have to do the work. I cannot manifest your life for you." Well, as my husband, maybe to some degree, but for other readers, you still have to do the work. Absolutely. Every one of us has personal responsibility for our own life journey. So yes, I give you the tools and the tips and the techniques and the mindset shifts and the energetic shift and the ability to start that journey, but you still have to do the work. Absolutely.
Isn't that a sad?
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, for my one-on-one clients or even in my groups, obviously for those that want that deeper shift and are looking for someone to be the captain with them to what's the word? Drive that ship. Uh,
Right.
it's fine. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I've had many healers and helpers and mentors through my journey and continue to. But through the book, it's still something that anyone can own it and anyone can reclaim their own power and start to do their own work and take over their health, wealth, relationships in the way that they are, responsible for their own happiness in life ultimately.
And I would encourage anyone who might be listening to this to not wait till you're 67 years old, like me, and almost die because of the abuse that I had done to my own personal body, from abusing alcohol to having a poor diet, poor lifestyle, to get to the point you go, okay, I've got to change and I've got to do the work. to be a better human being so that I can enjoy what time I have left here on that. But it has been work. It's not been easy, and it's in some degree there's been a lot of pain going through that. But I am thankful that I have done the work, and I am a totally different person. People that have known me my whole life know me now, and they go, "Wow, you're so much nicer
Mm.
than I've ever seen you before. You're a different person." And so I'm getting the rewards that way, but I'm also enjoying life more abundantly than ever before. So the work is worth it.
I was just gonna say, isn't it so worth it and rewarding? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. And it's
definitely.
not about the age, it's never too late to start over, to become happy. It doesn't matter how old you are, because age and a number is, and time really, people say time is an illusion, but in a way it is. We are living in this 3D reality where we are bound by time. But the truth is, think about it, like everyone wants to be happy regardless of how old you are. Everyone wants to feel healthy and their best regardless of how old. You can be in the 80s, you can be in the 90s, and you still want to feel your best, right? And
Right.
so it doesn't matter when you start, as long as you decide. It's all about a decision. You just decide that today is going to be a different day. Today, I'm going to feel my best. Today, I'm going to choose different thoughts. Today, I'm going to choose different ways of being and acting and relating to others and attracting differently. And that's where it all begins.
That sounded like a great series of affirmations.
It's a
Today,
book.
today I'm going to do that. So Helen, if someone wanted to reach out to you to consult or to possibly use you as a coach, how would they get in touch with you?
Pretty easy. I am definitely reachable. I love to stay connected with my readers, with just in general helping. I am a healer, so the need to help is always there. And Instagram is probably one of the easiest ways to connect with me on social media. It's Health and Wealth Coach. And LinkedIn is getting pretty good for me too. I'm back on LinkedIn. My website is healthandwealthcoach.com. And anyone that wants to actually schedule, I'm offering for the next 2 months, I'm offering actually a free discovery session again. So it's a 30-minute, literally consider it like your energetic audit of your own inner blocks and where you may be feeling like the root cause of why you have certain situations coming up in your life or certain patterns showing up in your relationships, in your health, in your abundance, anything that feels blocked. So I'm happy to invite your audience to that. Actually, I also want to offer a free gift to anyone that's looking to understand how your lineage may have contributed to your current reality. And that is what I call generational trauma patterns. I'm offering a free ebook called Unveiling the Mystery of Generational Trauma. And that is available on my website, healthandwealthcoach.com. And you can just download it. There's no strings attached. You can just get the copy. Feel free to share it, because I really want to help people understand that we're not just our own stuff that we carry. We also carry certain patterns from our ancestors, from our parents, from our grandparents. And if they went through something like wars, famine, abuse, any kind of toxic relationships, deep, wounds that they experienced, even science finally is now proving, there's been so many experiments that I've read with not just like mice and monkeys, and there's been some interesting ones with elephants, all sorts of different experiments that prove now that we really do carry our ancestral wounds, and they do deeply affect who we are, how we operate, how we think. But that's not to say that you're helpless in it. You can change that. You can break that cycle. I'm actually building an entire community of that, what I call cycle breakers, because it's my mission, once again, to help collectively elevate ourselves out of that wounded state and helpless state and into the empowered version of ourselves, so that we can collectively live happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives and bring in healthier, happier generations.
That's amazing. So thank you so much for that generous offer to our listeners, and to, it sounds like anyone that wants to come to your website to get that, and I'm certainly going to avail myself of it. So any final thoughts or takeaways before we wrap up today, Helen?
Well, final thoughts and takeaways. I like to really share with anyone listening or watching that even if you feel really stuck, and even if life feels really hard today, which it often does, and I'm going through some stuff, and every one of us always has something that life throws at us, just connect to the smallest things you're grateful for today and every day, and recognizing that there always is something, no matter how difficult the day is, there always something is, no matter small or big, that you can find to be thankful for. It really helps to shift your entire energy from pain and from disconnection and from negativity into something more positive, something that you feel thankful for, and toward the vibration of love and gratitude. And believe it or not, it really shifts your energy, but also how you feel and what you attract into your day. And that is just something that I find is the biggest gift we can give to ourselves. And while it's not easy for everyone to do, as I've learned through working with a number of clients who had a hard time with it, it's relatively simple. So just start to practice that every day. And I like to say to my clients, just give me 5 things you're grateful for, just 5. And if you can't think of any, look around yourself. You're on your phone, you have your house, you're not homeless, you're hopefully healthy. Just focus on those, and then the rest will follow. And it just helps to really create a very different dynamic for yourself and everyone else around.
So true, so true. I have a gratitude journal, and number one, every day is in my list of 6 is another day of life.
I love it.
Number one every day in that gratitude journal. So Helen has offered our listeners and audience some great tips, some great advice. I want to encourage everyone to get the book Unhack Yourself and go to her website to avail yourself of the tools she's offering all of us. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can go to www.mikebeverly.life. And while you're there, you can click the podcast tab and listen to this episode and many others in the library. We have right at 100 episodes now, and we're excited to offer guests like Helen and their expertise to our listeners. And feel free to reach out to me, schedule some time if you'd like to chat about your life, what you're doing, and maybe if you and I consult, you might be someone that's invited to be a guest on the Warriors of Wellbeing. And we'll look forward to having you on another episode in the near future. So have a very wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye. Awesome.
Great job. Yeah.
Recording.